Alright, good evening people. How y'all doing tonight? Welcome ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to the My Left Eye live stream. I'm your host Lefty. A very warm welcome to everybody here. One of Loki's, Davinia Robbins, and me Thrill. Good evening to you too, in the chat. It's great to see you back again. This is the first live stream, or any content, since the official election result has come out. I didn't manage to get through the full evening on election night itself. I was intending to do 3 parts, but after the second one, it was just a matter of exhaustion. I think perhaps having to listen to Peter Mandelson talk for a prolonged period of time had something to do with it as well. It didn't make me feel great, but yeah, the results are in. Going to be going over that, of course. No shock revelation. Spoiler alert. It's a Labour majority. Yeah, I'll be going through some of the predictions that I made. There are a lot of positives, though. I'm going to be focusing on the positives to take from this result, even though it is more or less just a changing of the faces and not much else. But I'll be going into that in a lot more detail. Just going to wait for 1 or 2 more people to arrive. I want to kick off, though, with a massive thanks to all of the members, as always. And we'll be joining Prime Minister Keith, as he is now, in his fondue lounge, as we do on these Sunday live streams. First time he's been in the lounge as Prime Minister. So yeah, if you'd like to add your name to the list of upcoming members, you can do so by joining the channel for just 99p. Some great perks to enjoy. Also, you can join the chat by hitting the subscribe button. Just 60 seconds later, you can get involved with the discussion on tonight's live stream and others. You can also help to support the channel with super thanks if you're watching back on a replay. Please do consider using super chats during the stream if you've got a pertinent question or point to make. And also consider checking out the Buy Me a Coffee page. The channel link for that is in the description. I should say the website link for that is in the description of the channel and this video. Okay, so here are our fantastic, wonderful members. Thanks to you as always. And thanks again to those fantastic people. Also a special thanks to those who have bought gift memberships for others recently. That's a great way to show solidarity on the channel here on My Left Eye. Davinia's had a bit of sparkling wine. Been to a party. Hope you had a good time. I'm certain it was better than this party that we can see. So yeah, Blur and Mandelson have got on the way on this one. But as I said, there are some positives to focus on. We can at least wave goodbye to the Tories. There were a few surprise results as well. I'm going to be talking about those. Also, yeah, I'll be kicking off with a comedy video, as always, in a moment or two. This one's about Liz Truss, who lost her seat. Former Prime Minister, briefly. Couldn't outlast a lettuce, but she was former Prime Minister. Lost her seat by about 600 votes in her constituency. Other notables, Jacob Rees-Mogg. It was a privilege to see him go. He gave quite a pathetic performance in front of the media as he exited the count. But that's just one count less in the House of Commons now. So we're into week one of Starmer's Britain. He's already on notice. A lot of the MPs who were successful for Labour on Thursday or Friday won by a short margin, and in effect, you know, almost on notice. Also going to be going over vote shares, first past the post system, how many votes get wasted. Going to be talking a little bit about the French election. It's the second round of voting there tonight. There's an alarming rise of the right wing in France, which is almost what this election's all about, the so-called centre ground. Not a term I like to use, but the so-called centre ground appears to be collapsing, and the right wing scarily are making some progress in France. Going to be having a quick look at that as well. Also going to be talking about issues, of course, such as Palestine, and a little bit about the US election as well. Bit of a crammed show tonight. The UK election is going to be the bulk of things this evening. So I'll just leave Keith to leave the Prime Ministerial fondue bubbling for a little bit. Not all of his cronies got through, incidentally. I will be talking about that. There were some people who were expected to walk through to either hold their seat or win a seat, and were unsuccessful. So he didn't quite get it all his own way. But yeah, alas, all the answers to the hot questions have been answered. All of the hot seats have been addressed as well. But I did get 4 out of 5 right on the green seats. It was a mixed bag in terms of results for predictions where I'm concerned. I was trying to be more optimistic. And also, I'm more dismissive of polling than others maybe. But this time around, a lot of the polling seems to have been correct, which does happen. Doesn't always happen, which is why I'm wary of them. But yeah, I mean, the turnout was appallingly low. That's something I'll be touching on shortly as well, when I'm talking about vote share and votes by number as well. Keith actually got a lot less votes, not only in his constituency seat, but for Labour overall, than Corbyn, of course. Be going on to that real soon, real soon. But yeah, let us know how you feel about the way your seat went. I didn't actually officially say on the last live stream who I voted for, but I did vote for the Greens. The seat, the constituency where I live, went to Labour, unfortunately. But I voted for the Greens. Let us know how you feel about your seats. You don't have to say which seat it is if you don't prefer. Alright, yeah. First of all, let's delve into the strange world of Liv Struss's, brackets for legal reasons, head, and just see what was going through her mind on election night as the count result came in. This one's from Nadine Skinner, who's been on live streams before. So do check her stuff out as well. Okay, that's enough fondue for now, Keith.
Phew, made it just in time. Thank God they didn't know I was lost. Well, 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 it's my turn. An easy win for little old Lizzie. I've worked hard. It's in the bag. I'm not really sure what this competition is, though. Seems fun. Whoops, I'm not listening. Bree, Stilton, I can't bear this. I'm bored. Let me win already. Listen here, United Brighton. You're all idiots. I've delivered the pie and you can have some. Pie. Actually, I'm really hungry. I hope Quasi makes some of that casserole I like tomorrow. Bob the Builder, can you fix it? Bob the Builder. We get the job done. I must look up those words. Hang on, where am I? Oh yeah, look at this lot. They're so lucky to have me, the pork market queen of Beijing, in their presence, waiting with bated breath to hear my triumphant speech. We've done it again, Maggie. I love you. Hang on, did I leave the iron on? Oh yes, of course, I don't do my own ironing. My little minions do that for me. I love minions, funny little yellow people. Why haven't I heard back from Steve Carroll about my pitch for Despicable Me 6? Everyone knows how good a writer I am. You can find my book everywhere, even in the bin. Maybe I should get a pet chinchilla. I could start a chinchilla farm and make hats. Ooh, chinchillas on your head. Ooh, chinchillas on your head. Hang on, where am I? Ooh, there's my name. I won. Wait, 11,217 is higher than 11,847, isn't it? 1, 2, 9. Pi equals 3.14. No, I lost. That is a disgrace. What a bastard. I put a cross against his name on the ballot paper because I don't want him around and told everyone else to do that too. What the frack? I don't need any of you. I've got £115,000 per year for doing nothing. And I've got OnlyFans and they love me talking about growth. As for the lettuce, it's just a woke, pointless, weak fruit. You're all just part of the deep state and lefty recycling vegans. And, actually, I don't care. I'm still not losing my seat because I've bought all of the chairs in IKEAs. So you can't stop me from sitting down in southwest North shredded wheat Norfolk. I'll never leave. Oh no, Human is coming towards me. He wants to touch me. Ooh. Oh, shake his hand? Rather not.
Are you ready for your handover speech?
No, I'm going now. Which way do I go? This way. I knew I'd win. Woohoo!
Yeah, great stuff. Almost unfortunate to see her go because of the parody content. But she's featured on the channel before. Great stuff from Nadine Skinner. Do check her out. If you've seen the actual footage of the count from her seat, though, my God, she was stood there with this. It's such a good parody. She has this awkward stance, and the look on her face. This sort of, she's miles away. She's miles away, but still beaming, smiling as this result comes in. And she's not, of course, the only high-profile Tory to have gone. I'd be interested to know who your favourite was. I mentioned Rees-Mogg earlier. It's going to be a pleasure not to have him around in the House of Commons anymore, that's for sure. Also, Penny Mordaunt was one of the high-profile members. Perhaps this didn't help.
We will cut your taxes. We will protect your pension. And we will defend this nation.
Please clap.
For a more secure future, vote Conservative.
Yeah, bye-bye, Penny. Mithril, that's the word I was looking for. Gormless. I sometimes get stultified with what adjectives to use when describing Tories and Labour alike, I guess. Because there are so many to choose from. But also, the depths of the stupidity and hubris is also unclassifiable. No, Jonathan Gutless. Jonathan Goulis. Yeah, the ape himself didn't win in Stoke. He's another one who's gone. Just a flash look at the actual overall results there. I'll be getting into some individual seats and stuff just a moment. Just bear with. Just adjust that for you. Let's go on show screen. Okay, so these are the overall UK results. We're having a look at individual countries as well. It's just a reminder, obviously Labour have got a pretty big majority there. 412 seats to the Tories, 121, so that's a majority of what? 291. Lib Dem in third. SNP took quite a drubbing there in Scotland, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess, well, for all of the reform, for all of the gloating that Reform tried to do about becoming the main opposition party, that hasn't been the case, unfortunately. They have won 5 seats. That's something I'll be touching on. The Greens have won 4 seats, as I've already said. I predicted at least 5. I was just a little bit off with that prediction. Going into that in a bit more detail shortly. But no, I'm really glad that Jonathan Goulis didn't win. He's another one who glad to see the back of. Of course, we're glad to see the back of any Tories. And yes, unfortunately, we're going to have to be putting up with a bit more of this as Farage claims success in Clacton. Also, in Ashworth, 30p Lee retained his seat and Richard Tice won his with a couple of other seats going to Reform as well. In fact, one of the 2 that were very late to declare was one of the ones at one point they were level, neck and neck with the Green Party on 4 seats, but now they have 5. So we might be seeing this prick on our TVs a little bit more. I was hoping that they wouldn't get any seats, of course. In fact, in my early predictions, I did predict that they would get no seats. As it turns out, less of the Tory vote went to Greens and Independents that I was hoping for, but I was also expecting Lib Dem to pick up a lot of votes from away from Reform, I should say. But let's try and stay positive, as I said. Right, yeah, let's quickly go to the results by nation. Let's see that, okay. Just gonna reduce that a bit. Okay. So this is in England, and yeah, Tories lost 251 seats, Labour picking up 211 of those. Lib Dems also, as predicted, made massive gains, I don't know why the colour scheme gets so messed up here as we go along. Gets consistent, but then Lib Dems like black and brown, and SNP are like two sort of shades of brown and green. Anyway, so they've won 64 seats, the Lib Dems. They've gained 64 seats, I should say, at 172. The SNP, this is one of the disappointments, lost 39 seats, and Labour now have a bigger share of seats than the SNP. We're looking at Scotland in a moment. So yeah, check that out. Gained 36, having previously only had 1. This is, of course, going to be detrimental to the push for an independent Scotland, of course. Don't think Labour are going to entertain that idea much. Keith certainly won't. Sir Keith certainly isn't going to do anything to disrupt or damage the union. There's also the issue of rejoining the EU, which comes up because, of course, the SNP have also pointed out that the vast majority of Scotland voted to remain in the EU, and they want to rejoin. That's one of the reasons that they were pushing for independence recently. But they've been left with just 9 seats. And Lib Dems gained a few as well. The Tories left with just 5, which is still a bit of good news. But in Wales, they've absolutely bin the Tories off. There were 12 Tory MPs, and now there are none. And yeah, Labour have picked up the majority of theirs, with Plaid Cymru picking up a couple, Lib Dem picking up just 1 there, but not a single Tory left in Wales. I saw a picture earlier of the gable end of a house in Wales, and it must just be by the borders, and it says welcome to Wales, Tory-free Wales, something like that. Not a single Tory. And then Northern Ireland, before I'll be addressing the hot questions and stuff. So this is also a bit of a shift. Voters moving away from the DUP, which has left Sinn Féin as the biggest party in Northern Ireland. With 7 seats, and the DUP now on just 5. Social Democratic and Labour Party with 2 seats. So that's the results by region. Let's take a look at some of the hot seats. Bear with. This was, of course, seats that I'd selected that could have had some interesting changes and the like. Bit of a mixed bag. There's obviously a really good positive few in there. I'll just remind you of what my selections were. So yeah, this was the hot seats, the ones to watch. Oh yeah, I should have pointed that out about the Northern Ireland result as well. Ian Paisley Jr. losing his seat was nice, yeah. Hadn't he held that since, God, what would it be, 1970 or something? Yes. So that was good to see. So these were the seats that I selected as ones to watch. We'll just we'll go through them from top to bottom. I'll just get them lined up here with the results. So Chingford and Woodford Green was, of course, an example of Starmer parachuting in a candidate after deselecting someone who'd been previously elected, which unfortunately is something that the public went along with in quite a few of the seats that Labour won. This country seems to keep shooting itself in the foot and then wondering why it can't walk anywhere. Right, I'm just going to queue up Chingford and Woodford Green. I won't give anything away until we look at the actual results. There will, of course, be some that you'll be familiar with. So Faiza Shaheen was the MP in question who'd been deselected, and I was hoping that she'd be one of the examples of showing Starmer that people just won't tolerate this in the constituencies, to bring in people who, in many cases, don't even live there. But as you can see here, unfortunately, Ian Duncan Smith retained his seat. In fact, he was one of the MPs who was expected to lose. Sharma Tatler of Labour came second. Now, I'm not going to get into any arguments that there's a sort of split vote scenario there, because if you tot up Pfizer and Sharma's votes, then that'd be obviously 24,000, which should knock Ian Duncan Smith out. I think Faiza Shaheen was right to stand, obviously, as an independent. She quit over being deselected, rightly so. We do have a massive problem with democracy, not only in the Labour Party itself, but also in the country overall. And I'll be talking about the faults and negatives and cons of first past the post in just a short while. But that's the first one on the hot seat list. Unfortunately, Faiza Shaheen didn't get in there. Next on the list was Bristol Central, and I'm almost certain that a few of you will be familiar with the result of that one. This was, of course, one that Green Party leader Carla Denyer was hoping to win. So let's have a look at this. Just bear with me, it's a long list. Got a lot of data here. Here we go. Yeah, you'll probably already know about this one. The Greens gained the seat from Labour by quite a lot. By quite a lot. 30.6 swing, and they got 56.6 of the vote. Carla Denyer, of course, the co-leader, along with Adrian Ramsey. So this was one of the 4 Green seats that was won yesterday. This was also one of the 5 that I predicted. Great to see. And if you look at voting intentions since 2010, in this seat in particular, they did select this one really well. They've been garnering support on the rise as Labour have declined at quite a steady rate since 2010. So 24,000 with a majority of almost 10,000 there, beating Thangam Debonair in second place, the Tories in third. Next on the list, Islington North. No spoilers, spoiler alert. Yeah, of course. Actually, while we're on that topic for a moment, I just want to go to that's Carla Denyer. And she had this to say on election night, just before we go over to the Islington North result.
I am feeling over the moon and so grateful for all of the support we've received from voters in Bristol Central and across the country. There's obviously a lot of results still to come in from elsewhere.
Yeah, this was during election night before the full result had come out, by the way.
But I've just been told that we've already surpassed 1 million votes, and we've got a number of very healthy second place results in some of the constituencies that have already come out too.
Yeah, and in the end, they got about 4 million, which is incredible. So Islington North. This is what Wesley, Shut Up Wesley Streeting, had to say what he thought the outcome of the next election would be in Islington North. I think this was recorded around May this year. I'm not sure who the original uploader of this was, but every credit to you. It's just a short clip. But Wesley seems to have been a little bit out with his prediction, spoiler alert, for what would happen in Islington North.
Frankly, what Jeremy Corbyn does is no concern to me whatsoever any longer. He won't be a Labour candidate at the next general election. He won't be in Parliament after the next general election. Frankly, what Jeremy Corbyn does is the next general election. He won't be in Parliament after the next general election. Frankly, what Jeremy Corbyn does is no...
Yeah. But Wes was wrong. Wesley. Didn't call that one out. Alright, let's take a look. Obviously, this was a seat that Jeremy Corbyn was standing in as an independent for the first time. And he's now officially not in the party for having stood against them in an election. That's all done and dusted with. He was, of course, deselected. Some of the mainstream media actually during election night, and I'm going to particularly point to Robert Peston. I'm not going to show the clip or anything, but I've seen this one going around. Tried to say that Jeremy Corbyn was kicked out of the Labour Party in, quote, the purge on anti-Semitism, which we all know is utter bullshit. It was for comments in response to the report coming out where he said that certain things were overstated by the media. So this is one of the better results, one of the most positive things that we saw from the general election. I'm particularly pleased as well that this went the way I was hoping in the hot seats. Independent gain from Labour in Islington North, and he absolutely walloped him. Jeremy Corbyn, 24,120 way in front of the Labour candidate Praful Nargund on 16,800. He was, of course, exposed as being involved in a corruption scandal, being a CEO himself. This is the Labour candidate, and with the amount of support that Corbyn has anyway from his constituents, I'm really, they were saying it was neck and neck at one point, but in the end, Corbyn's won by a clear margin. And the Greens coming in third there as well. This clip I want to show you as well. In congratulations to Corbyn. This is probably my favourite constituency result, truth be told. This is just as well. Shows you the swing there, 49% swing to an independent. Labour down 29.9%. Corbyn won, and he did it his way.
Do you regret any of the sort of situation that led you to being an independent MP? Is there anything you'd do differently?
Regrets? I'm with Frank Sinatra on that one.
Regrets? I've had a few. Then again, too few to mention.
Is that the jumper that your mum made?
Yes, it is. I did what I had to do.
Why are we spending £3.5 billion
and saw it through
on a war that nobody wants?
Without exemption. I planned each charted course.
If I fall down when you all turn the cameras off.
Each careful step.
Remember, this election
along the byway.
is about you.
And much more than this. I did it my way.
Jeremy Corbyn, independent, 24,000.
So we haven't seen Pete Corbyn then?
No, there's much more to come and it's going to get even better.
We did it our way.
Shout out to We Deserve Better there. Check out wedeservebetter.uk. Of course, large amount of voters would have had Palestine in the consciousness as well when they were voting for Corbyn. He's been out on the campaign trail and also appeared at demos. Like, fantastic. I'm just overjoyed that he's held the seat himself personally and taken it and gained it as an independent from Labour. Congratulations. That's definitely my favourite hot seat result. Definitely my favourite general election result. And I'll go so far as to stick my neck out right now and tell you that I think Corbyn as a MP will outlast Keir Starmer in Parliament. Obviously, we're in week 1 of Starmer's Britain. There's a long way to go over the next 5 years. A week's a long time in politics, and we've got, hundreds of weeks to go before the next election. But I'll stick my neck out early and say that if something comes up down the line where Starmer has to step down, he will certainly do that before Jeremy Corbyn either loses an election or steps down himself. Going to come on to some other seats where it has been Labour who prevailed as winners, but they appear to be put on notice, as it were. I might have to compile some sort of list for us to keep our eye on over this Parliament. And I'll be talking about that in a moment, but then let's just go through the rest of the hot seats before I come to that. So the next one on the seat is Shut Up Wesley's seat, Ilford North. Let's dive into that one. Again, this is one you might be familiar with the result of already. Okay, where are we? Here we go. So unfortunately Labour held Ilford North, and Shut Up Wesley did cling on, but what a fantastic effort from Liam Mohammed. Look at that. Wesley's in by just about 528 votes. Very, very close. And I know that Liam Mohammed put up a fantastic effort there in Ilford North. so we can put Wes Streeting on notice, that's for sure. Leanne has featured on live streams before, as obviously this has been one of the ones to watch for this very reason, as to whether an independent could gain this seat from Labour, but that is massively close. I don't know of any other seat that Labour have won or clung on to by such a short margin other than this one. If you know, please do let us know in the chat. Also, just want to quickly remind everybody to hit the thumbs up button to help the stream reach a wider audience. And if you've not subscribed, please do so, and you can join others in the chat as well. So Wes is on notice, although he's just about clung on. Yeah, he's dropped 20.7% there with independent gain of 32.2. We'll still be keeping our eye on that one as we go into this Parliament. So that was a very hot seat as well. Next on the list we've got Rochdale. Of course, George Galloway bagged that one in a by-election earlier on in the year. And it's rare that you see so much attention paid to a by-election, but that one had all sorts going on. There was controversy, so-called controversy from the Labour candidate. You had George Galloway back in the mix there, of course. He's always very vocal, and the issue of Palestine again came up on the doorstep. So that was how George Galloway won that seat. There's a bit of an error here, just noticed. We'll bring you the result now. It says that Labour have held Rochdale. That's a gain, actually, because it was for the Workers' Party of Britain, as you can see there. George Galloway, don't know if anyone's listening, if you want to get that amended. But again, a fairly narrow victory of just 2,000. It would have been interesting to see if Workers' Party of Britain held on to this seat. It was their only seat in Parliament, and yeah, they've actually not won any seats, as all the results have come in from this election now. But this is one of the seats where they could be on notice. There's another one I'm going to be talking about shortly as well. Ah, right, I see, Davinia. Yeah, the BBC are using the metric of the 2019 results. Well, that doesn't really tell a proper story, does it, if they going off of the 2019 results. It was a Workers' Party of Britain seat. I think that's, doesn't really tell the full story. But thanks for pointing that out. I can't get everything right, you know. So next on the list, Holborn St Pancras, Keith's seat. And that was being challenged by Andrew Feinstein, of course, who used to campaign with Nelson Mandela. And was really taking Starmer to task over the issue of Gaza. Obviously, I'm sure you're all familiar with the way this one went, but it would have been a massive shake-up if Labour had won the election, but Keith would have lost his individual seat to an independent. So this is the end result, and there is still something very interesting to point out, even though, of course, obviously, Keith held on to the seat. Andrew Feinstein came second, but he's dropped considerably in terms of votes there, by number, by percentage. Andrew Feinstein put up a massive campaign, every credit to him. It wasn't a particularly close vote, although during the 2017 election, Starmer got 40,000 votes in Holborn and St Pancras. He's now down to 18,000. This is with him as leader of the Labour Party as well, by the way. It's worth pointing out. His vote by number did drop slightly in 2019, but this is a massive dip from that. I think it went from 40 to about 36, 35,000, and now it's down to 18. That's almost half by number. So again, every credit to Andrew Feinstein for putting in a fantastic campaign there. Not sure if he'll continue to campaign, if he'll be standing again in the next election. That remains to be seen. We're a long way away from that. I'm not gonna be making any of those kind of early predictions. I've already made one very early prediction about the longevity of Jeremy Corbyn's tenure as Islington North MP. All right, Birkenhead next. Let's cue that one up. So this was another seat that the Greens looked to be edging Labour out in. Just bear with. Where are we? Birkenhead, here we go. But unfortunately, Labour held on. Joe Bird was the challenger, the Green challenger. It did look neck and neck at one point. Unfortunately, this hasn't gone the way I was hoping. This was just one of 5 seats that I didn't quite land in my prediction for what the Green Party get. So Alison McGovern has held on to a seat there. Also, just in the general Merseyside area, there's, as far as I know, not been such of a collapse in vote for Keir Starmer as I was hoping. Obviously, he was endorsed by The Sun officially. Liverpool in particular have a particular dislike of that publication. But also on the issue of Gaza, Liverpool's and Merseyside has been one of the strongest areas in the country in terms of showing support for Gaza. So I'm surprised there wasn't as much of a mass exodus from Labour in those geographical areas as I was perhaps hoping for. All right, we're almost there. Clacton, like I say, some of these didn't exactly go the way I was hoping. Clacton being the seat that Nigel Farage was standing in. Yeah, I'm mostly going to try and stay positive during this stream, but unfortunately we are going to have to now and then dip into some of the worst results from the election. Just get Clacton up. It was a Tory seat. There has been a change. I did say I wouldn't have minded if this was the one of the seats that Labour won. And unfortunately, Farage has landed his first seat in Parliament on the 8th attempt. with getting quite a big majority over the Tory. Labour came third in the end. Hope that Jarvan Owusu-Nepal might take the gain from the Tories, but 21,225. It does look as though that's just a mass exodus from the Tories to Reform in that case, and now they've got 5 seats, of course. Unbelievable. All right, let's not dwell on the negative ground too long. Let's just have a quick look at North Durham finally, the last of the hot seats. I believe one of you just mentioned North Durham in the chat earlier. So I've been trying to... Yeah, Durham Northwest went Tory in 2019. This is Davinia Robbins. But due to boundary changes, the new seat, Bladen and Consett, was classed as a Labour hold. Yeah, this is the first election since some of these boundary changes came in, of course. That's another way that the Tories have tried to manoeuvre the goalposts in the run-up to the election. All right, so finally, let's just have a look at Durham, North Durham. Or is it Durham North? It's North Durham, I believe. So it just depends whether I've filed it, whether it's filed under N or D, right? Yeah, it's the North Durham. I knew it. If it says so on the hot list, then I must have checked it out. Okay. Unfortunately, Akehurst, who was parachuted in from Oxford, hundreds of miles away from North Durham, has gained roughly a 6,000 majority there, with Reform in second. That's pretty gross, to be honest. That result to have Luke Akehurst as an MP parachuted in from the NEC, of course, climbing that greasy career pole. So unfortunately, not a lot of the hot seats went the way I was hoping, sometimes expecting. Or there were one or two that I was just curious about in there as well. But massive congratulations to Corbyn. And let's have a look at the a quick look at the green seats. This will cheer us up a bit. Okay, yeah. Birkenhead was the only one out of those 5 that went to the Greens, so they've been left with 4. That's a good base to build on, I guess. Brighton and Hove, Bristol Central, North Hereford and Waveney Valley going to the Greens. Waveney Valley is Adrian Ramsey, the co-leader's seat, and Bristol Central, as mentioned before, that's Carla Deniers, of course. So congratulations to the Greens. Let's just have a quick look at the hot questions before I go into another couple of seats where Labour are on notice as well. So the hot questions were: would the Tories lose 150 seats? Yes, of course they did. They lost 251. So that answered that one. Perhaps considering debating whether it should be over 200 or not. But ironically, I was being a little conservative and stuck with 150. Of course, I was early on expecting a small Labour majority or a hung parliament. Wasn't quite expecting this much of a majority for Labour. Would Lib Dem become the main opposition party in England? No, the answer to that was no. But not by much. Not by much. Tories on 121. Lib Dem on 72. Could there be more defections, resignations as opposition? And that number could even out a little bit more as we get into the next Parliament. Who knows? So would the SNP gain or lose seats? Obviously, this one was clearly answered. And I was hoping that, well, I was expecting that the SNP would lose seats, but still be the biggest party in Scotland. Unfortunately, that's not come to pass. It's been a tricky one to work out. Of course, they've only recently just had the leadership re-election. This was the first time that Swinney was standing. This is the first time that there's been an election since 2019, of course, and the first time out. Nicola Sturgeon, of course, has sort of been was dragged into this alleged corruption scandal and then was replaced. So there have been two leaders since she stood down. And, well, as I said earlier, Labour have just mopped up those seats as well. So the final hot question, of course, will there be a hung Parliament? Lord, no. No, there wasn't. That could have been interesting. But no hung Parliament. Not even close. So that's the hot stuff addressed and answered, but not everything quite went Labour's way, as I said. Let's take a look at Birmingham Yardley. So this is Jess Phillips's seat. Look at this. So the Workers' Party of Britain didn't win any seats, but they ran a very, very close race in this one. Labour winning by just 2%. Vote share down 26.9%. Workers' Party of Britain seems to have picked up all of that and then some. Some gains for everyone apart from the Tories there as well. So Jess Phillips is on notice. I'm going to be coming up with. In fact, I'll tell you what. I'm going to start writing them down immediately, and this is going to be something I'll be keeping my eye on as we go through this Parliament. So MPs, Labour MPs on notice are currently Jess Phillips, Wes Streeting, and if there are any other seats where you know that there's been very, very marginal wins for Labour where they could potentially be on notice, let us know as well in the comments. Yeah, you're right, Divinia. I'll try and figure out how to do a live raid into No Justice. For those of you who aren't familiar with No Justice as well, do check her out. She's raided into my streams before, so yeah, just try and get that queued up. And also, you said 300. Is that for Tory losses and you weren't that far out? Yeah, that would have been... that would have probably succeeded the 97 landslide, wouldn't it? It didn't get that far, by the way. For people who were wondering, they thought it would... some commentators in the mainstream and the polls would have suggested that it would have exceeded that. On this occasion, the polls turned out to be right. They were pretty far off on the last local elections, on the last general election as well. But on this occasion, they seem to have come through. Someone who isn't just on notice, but actually lost their seat as a Labour candidate. Like I said, they didn't all have it their own way. Was John Ashworth, who was one of the Labour MPs who got the knives out against Corbyn as well, of course. So I will absolutely not be shedding a tear seeing him lose his seat to an independent. Another reason as well, he for some reason chose to start to attack the Bengali community in his constituency, and that's certainly backfired somewhat. So John Ashworth lost his seat, and this is what's his face, Reynolds, from Labour, actually trying to cover up some excuses as to why he lost, but also something he says is particularly worrying, which is going to lead me on to the crap voting system and political system that we have at the moment. Reynolds says that he's going to try and get John Ashworth a role in the Labour Party regardless of him winning the seat or not. And we saw under the Tories how people like David Cameron got back in through peerage, etc. And that is an affront to democracy as far as I'm concerned. And we shouldn't be hearing this sort of thing.
To his own personal cost in that way. And of course, to be in a political system where you can win a landslide, get that mandate, but lose very close colleagues, that is, British politics is tough. Like that, on a personal level, really, someone who'd given so much and has a lot to give, and I hope we can find a role that will allow him to continue to do that.
One of the reasons I ask is that he lost his seat in Leicester South. We don't know yet, but it is thought partly because of, if you like, some ethnic rivalries.
Well, they've tried to brush over that very lightly there, Trevor Phillips on Sky. Ethnic rivalries. No, he made a very racist, anti-Bengali stance and paid the price for that. So that was Leicester South. I'll cue that up just one sec. And I never liked John Ashworth. Even when he was, even under Corbyn, I had a sense there wasn't something quite right about him, and turned out to be proved correct there. So an independent gain from Labour there. Shock at Adam. Just about getting through and knocking Jonathan Ashworth out of the game. Fairly close call though. Almost exactly 1,000 majority. So that'd be good to see. An independent in his place.
To his own personal cost in that way. And of course to be...
Apologies about that. Yeah, so, first past the post, it doesn't make any sense as a metric for gaining what the public want. It's massively unrepresentative. We need a fairer, more representative system. Unfortunately, I'm almost certain that you're not going to get that with a Starmer government. As much as the FBPE lot sort of lauded Starmer and were hoping that he'd get in because they thought he was going to bring PR, this is one of the issues that he wants to dodge, along with rejoining the EU as well. That's another issue that they were hoping that they'd be able to rejoin the EU via Starmer's election. For a number of years now, I won't be lying if I said that I'd had confrontational conversations, should we say, on social media with some of these people. And unfortunately, I've been proven right on this occasion. So let's take a look at the votes by number. Now, Labour have got through with this massive majority, even though only 9.7 million votes. That's fewer than the last election, which they described, which the current Starmer-led Labour Party and others, and the Tories and the mainstream media described as a disaster, the worst ever. They've got even less votes this time around than they did last time around. Back in 2017, 12.9 million votes. That's one of the things Starmer obviously doesn't want to talk about, the 2017 election. Neither do a lot of the mainstream press. H. Lukill, welcome to the chat, welcome to the stream. Great to see you this evening. Hope you're very well. Let us know your thoughts about how the election went. Just talking through how crap first past the post is and why we need a more representative system, starting with this. Now, the turnout is a massive factor here as well in this election. Very, very low. I believe it's around 57% was the last stat that I saw. And if that's the case, then that is a record, I believe, for lowest turnout. Unfortunately, low turnouts generally favour right-wing parties. And bar the Tories, that seems to have been correct. We've just replaced one right-wing party, one right-wing government with another one. We've seen Reform gain 5 seats. And critics of PR would say that, if you had this, then far-right parties would get in. I say no, because if we had a fairer, more representative system, then people would give independents and grassroots parties more of a chance, and there'd be less of this sort of football rules nonsense, which I pointed out before, and this attempt to have effectively a two-party system. This is the vote share. Yeah, and I think this is just I mean, what an example of how broken the system is. Labour have this massive majority of, 291 seats. Only 34% of the people who voted for them. Even though they got less votes than in 2019, the vote share has actually gone up by 1.6%. It's very slim, obviously. The Tories have taken a trouncing. The vote share going down 20% there, almost. Scarily, Reform with 14% of the vote. Lib Dem on 12. Greens on 7%. SNP down on 2. But I was sure I had another graph. Just let me double check I uploaded that. Oh, that's the one, yeah. I want you to look at this one though. This just shows you how bad it is as a system. Look at that. SNP are just 5% behind Labour. And they've been left with 9 seats. Labour have got over 400. So SNP won't be the second biggest party in Parliament. But they've had just 5% less votes than the SNP. The Tories in third. Lib Dem fourth. It's a broken system. It needs fixing. I'm very worried that Starmer's not going to do anything to address this, but this has to be one of the things that opposition parties really push Starmer for? Of course, we got socio-economic issues. We've got the climate crisis as well, which is going to be disappointing us all with. I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind. But we've really got to challenge him on this. We've really got to challenge this system as a whole. So that's just a reminder of the votes by number again. Just bear with me. Be back in one second. Sorry about that, I'm back. Alright, so yeah, I don't know what your least favourite thing about First Past the Post is, but when, you know, almost 80% of people don't vote for a party and they get a supermajority, doesn't that show you just how messed up it is, how screwed up it is?
Do you see this as anti-democratic, the way that we vote?
I think it is in the sense that people aren't getting what they're trying to express at the ballot box. I think that's the key thing. Various parties and candidates have positions on it, but really the only bias in the electoral system should be towards the voter. That's who the election belongs to. And what we're seeing repeatedly now at many elections is that people are not in a situation where seats match votes. And I think we're getting to a point where that won't hold for much longer. So it's really important we talk about this.
But talking about it, I mean, we can cast our mind to, there was a vote on this, a vote on changing our voting system in 2011. It was overwhelmingly rejected. Again, if people engaged with it at all, this is the issue, isn't it? Who will bring the change and how will it happen? Do you think it will happen?
I think a lot has changed since that last referendum in 2011, when we think of all the changes in this country with referendums in Scotland and on Brexit, that changed political alliances, and we've had elections where some parties got 1% more and 80-seat majorities. We've seen a lot of volatility. We've also seen a big breakdown, I think, which is interesting from a voter perspective, of not having the same number of lifetime voters. Party identification is down. People are shifting between parties. And so it's a subject that's not going to go away. And I think when you see the governing party coming in with goodwill, people wishing them well, and we see the scenes yesterday, but the truth is that on a third of the vote, they've won 2/3 of the seats. So there needs to be some humility in that, because a lot of people have not voted for this, but they want to change, but yet the Greens and the Reform Party between them over 21% of the vote and 1% of the seats. So if we're going to try and encourage people to have trust in institutions and in politicians, we need to get to a voting system where seats match vote.
Do you see this?
I couldn't agree more that we need to switch to a voting system where, you know, seats match votes a lot more clearly. All right, so we've had this massive turnout, this massively low turnout, I should say, way under 60%. And what's happened is, obviously, a lot of people are sick of the main parties, but people should still exercise their right to vote anyway. They should vote for whatever party it is, however big it is, that closest matches what they want, whether it's an independent or a grassroots party or whatever. But with low turnouts, you're opening the door for the right wing, and that's what's happened here. Yeah, that other graph I showed, Davinia, was the Scottish vote, the 30 versus 35%, one SNP Labour. Classic example of how crap the system is. But what else comes into it as well? With a low turnout, yeah, it's just to be expected. So the Greens got, for example, 4 million votes, and that's like 1 million votes per seat. You know, they've still got 1% of the seat share, even though they got 4 million votes. I'm no fan of reform, obviously, but they got even more votes and got just one more seat. But again, I think if you had PR, people would move away from far-right parties. They'd be more in favour of parties like the Greens. They'd be more in favour of independents and smaller parties as well. Just have a look through some of the comments as well. Yeah, over 40% of people haven't voted. This, you know, I'm sure Starmer will think that his position has come from the will of the people, as they say. Will no doubt hear a lot of gloating coming from Starmer about the so-called will of the people and change. That's going to be brought up in the next PMQs a bunch of times, I'm sure. Might be keeping a counter on that one, actually. Changing it, obviously. The Stop the Boats game will be over the next time we're going to check it out PMQs when it restarts. So it might have to be changed, the changeometer, or the change counter instead. But this is far from the will of the people. And yeah, in 2011, was it? There was a vote on not PR, but AV, the alternative votes, aka top-up vote system. But yeah, as you pointed out in the chat there, Davinia, it was rejected because it was too complicated for older people. Now, of course, the Tories had just got in 2011. They'd only been in power for about a year then. The average age of a Tory member is 73. So to try and discourage people from voting for a more representative system, i.e. voting against themselves in many ways, the fact that the elderly get absolutely shat on by the Tories, but they still keep going out and voting for them, to me, boggles the mind. But there you go. And to try and put people off an alternative voting system by saying that it's too complicated for older people is quite a pathetic fucking excuse as far as I'm concerned. It's not very complicated at all. All that happens with that sort of thing is you have a round of voting, and then whoever gets the least amount of votes drops out, and you vote again, and it whittles down until someone's got a clear majority. And I think you're right there, Mithril, that PR would force a more cooperative politics, and that is what we need. This confrontational politics leads to short-term and long-term bad decision-making, yeah. It's all these political footballs being kicked around, but there are a lot of issues where things can be resolved cross-party. All right, been on for a while now. I'm just quickly going to dip into this latest news on the French election. I think the voting has just about finished now. Not sure when they do their exit poll. Just going to bring up an article here. If you'd be so kind as to bear with me. But while I'm doing that, actually, I'll just quickly remind you to hit buttons, notification, thumbs up. Don't forget to consider joining the channel. There's other ways you can support as well, with super chats, super thanks, and the Don't Buy Me a Coffee page. Alright, there has been some news that's come in. This is an early projection as well. I'm not sure if this is taken off of an exit poll. Just the sort of premise to this is the second round of elections in France. Macron sort of called a snap election in sort of response, in panic, to the apparent rise of support for the far left in France. For this round, was just quickly looking into things earlier on, and it was largely predicted that there'd be a hung parliament in this round, with almost a three-way split between the votes, but this is just coming out now, emerging. Early projections show a surprise lead for France's left alliance. I'm not sure if the BBC are describing this centrist, which is, you know, soft right coalition, as the left alliance. Let's have a quick dive in. Yeah, quite alarmingly, we are seeing hard right governments growing and expanding in Europe, which is particularly worrying. Countries such as Italy, Hungary. Obviously, you've got right-wing leaders here in the UK. Yes, Starmer is right-wing, obviously. Yeah, also, you know, Russia, Ukraine. It's happening all over the place. So we're hoping that Le Pen can be kept out here. We don't want France to fall to a far-right political party, of course. And people have, well, political parties have responded to this in France with coalitions, etc. So this came in not too long ago. It says jubilation among left-wing voters. There was absolute jubilation in Place de la République in France, in Paris, as the results came in. And now there's music and chanting, apparently. So Jean-Luc Mélenchon appears either on the screen to large cheers every time he steps out on the balcony. It says, though, not everyone here in France supports that party that's organised the gathering of the new Popular Front. One woman here, that is the report saying, not sat here with me, told me she was fed socialism from the bottle at birth, that Mélenchon was a candidate she would never have supported before this. So luckily, socialists have apparently taken a stand against the far right there in France. If only, you know, we could have seen that last week, or this week even, here in Britain. Let's just see what this video is all about. I think the far right were expecting to do very well. This appears to be a shock for them. Get your small violins out.
I mean, there was a bit of a stunned silence, a tiny smattering of applause, of sort of, I don't know, sense of trying to reassure themselves when the exit polls came out. But it looks from the exit polls that the far right, the National Rally, has fallen far short of what they were hoping for, far short of the numbers needed to form majority, or indeed being able to form even a minority government. I mean, if these exit polls are to be borne out in the results, and we're getting more exit polls really every few minutes, it is suggesting that the National Rally has been beaten comprehensively, not only by the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, but also by the centrist coalition of Emmanuel Macron.
Well, yeah, fair play to them if that's what's happened. You've got to keep the right wing out at all costs. Good evening, Divinia Robbins. If you've left us, if you're catching up on a replay, if you've already left, very good evening to you. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight in the chat. See you next time. So it looks like they've had a very lucky escape. Yeah, you're right there, Mithril. Okay, this will be quite pleasant to observe. Some
People have taken all means to stop French people choosing different politics.
different politics. That's one way to describe the far right. I'd perhaps use some different adjectives, if that's what he wants to say.
But today, the Rassemblement National has had the best results it has ever had. Unfortunately, an alliance of dishonor and electoral arrangements that are perilous, passed by Emmanuel Macron and Gabriel Attal, have led to policies. We were ahead in European elections and last week in the first round. Tonight, these electoral arrangements have thrown France into Jean-Luc Mélenchon's extreme left.
All right, I'm not sure what the metric for extreme is, but if it's anything like in the UK, they'll say that anything to the left of Gordon Brown is far left. I'm not too familiar just how actually far left this other party is. My knowledge of French politics isn't as broad as it is with UK politics or other countries, but I have had an eye on this, and it is a big relief to see. Now, people have gotten their heads together there in France, and they go through voting in a much different way than we do here in the UK. However, people have seen that there's been this rise in support for the far right and gotten together and actually bloody done something about it, something we never seem to be capable of in this country. And that could be for a variety of reasons, but it's something that I'd like to see happen. It's something that I was hoping we'd start to see more of in this week's election. We've seen a few seeds of hope. There are obviously those 4 seats for the Greens. There have been some gains for independents as well. There's just not been as many as I was hoping. You know, we really had a chance to show the so-called 3 main parties in England, that is, that were absolutely sick of just turning the wheel round and getting different ones each time. But alas, we in England and the rest of the UK, most of the UK, chose not to do that. Of course, Wales booted all of the Tories out. The Scots have gone back to Labour. Northern Ireland has seen a change with Sinn Féin being the biggest party there. Obviously, left wing, so that's a change there. But here in England, I have to say I'm a bit disappointed with the overall result, but there are a few sparks of hope there, like I said. And now that Starmer's in, he's got to be held to account. He won't get away with the kind of U-turns that he has done before. Ever since He was in the leadership contest, in the Labour leadership contest. He's turned his back on so many policies. He's done so many U-turns. The biggest ones that have come up recently have been the £28 billion Green Pledge that he turned away from, of course. And some of the mainstream media did try to hold him account for that, but now that he is in the position of Prime Minister, he's really not going to get away with it as much as he used to. I'm hoping so. Anyway, I'm hoping that the mainstream media do the job properly and don't just try and kiss arse. But also he's going to be accountable to the unions as well. And I want to show you this clip from Sharon Graham. Now, she has, put her elbow into Keir Starmer quite a few times in the past, although disappointingly, in the run-up to the general election campaign, she actually gave him a solid endorsement. But in this interview, she seems to really effectively be putting him on notice. So they did stick with Starmer in the run-up to the election, but she says he's going to have to come through with the results. I don't want to use the word deliver. I've grown far too weary of that word being thrown around recently. But he's got to come through.
I'd like them to be like a 1945 transformational government. That's what I would like them to be. And I still don't think the penny has dropped yet. That actually people...
Yeah, sorry to interrupt so quickly, but I'm sure that she's going to be disappointed on that front. 1945 types of change. This is when we're talking about the creation of the NHS, for example. We're not going to see those kind of developments coming from Starmer. It's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more austerity. We are still going to see that massive wealth gap. He's going to pander to business. And he's going to continue to crap on working people. There are going to be further burdens put on people with social welfare reform in a negative sense. I've got no doubt about that. Coming up down the line in Starmer's government, we've also seen that streeting is going to be going further with NHS privatisation. He says he even wants to do what Tony Blair's government, quote unquote, achieved, although that's no achievement to take us further towards a privatised healthcare system or an American-style insurance-based system. He's going to let you down, Sharon.
People are hurting to a degree that really is beyond anything I've ever seen before. And I have 1.1 million workers in my union, and I'm out there all the time. And for me, I don't think what they've taken into account that we had the 2008 crash, and workers and communities paid the price, and they've just given bankers back their bonuses prior to the new government coming in. We had COVID, and it was workers, low-paid workers, who went out there and dealt with that. It wasn't city bankers, it was low-paid workers. And then...
Well, Reeves is going to be awful as Chancellor. Again, she's going to be pandering to elites while people still continue to struggle. There's still a poverty crisis. They'll perpetuate the syntax, of course, that the Tories created, so-called cost of living crisis. It's just poverty. It's a poverty crisis. It's happening. You can't just try and dress something up with different language and different syntax and mean that it changes what it is, and then create a position in Parliament, of course, the Minister for the Cost of Living Crisis, as they did, to pretend to give two shits about it when they really don't. They're using the metric of gender as well for quality of Chancellor, reminding us that Rachel Reeves is going to be the first female ever Chancellor of the Exchequer. But I like to judge quality not by gender, but by what they actually do for the country. And you can only really describe anything as progressive if that's the metric that you use.
When they came back, they were told you're not getting a pay rise. Something has got to stop. And that's why I do say to Labour, it's a big moment for them. And I think they're going to rise to the challenge, but I'll be on their tail to make sure. It's a big moment for them, and they need to grasp the nettle. They really need to make it count.
Okay. Well, I don't think that they will. It's going to be a disappointment for your workers on workers' rights, even minimum wage. He's still going to continue to be a critic of workers who go on strike. He's going to be a critic of NHS staff who go on strike. Unite union members who choose to strike over paying conditions. He's going to be the same with the RMT. Mick Lynch tried to say that people didn't have any choice but to vote for Labour. Now, I'm normally a massive advocate for Mick Lynch. I think he's a great leader of the RMT. And he's obviously made some fantastic appearances on the media rounds, but to sort of hold his nose and go along with Starmer in a similar fashion, perhaps won't be the wisest move. And we're going to be seeing that over the next 5 years as well. He's going to be letting people like Sharon Graham down. He's going to be letting Mick Lynch down, union members, workers. It's not going to be an easy ride. This isn't the change that people were hoping for, you know. We're still going to see austerity. And yeah, this is a massive coup. This is a massive coup in terms of politics. He went from shadow Brexit secretary to Prime Minister in a very short amount of time. He only joined the Labour Party in 2015. He was installed to essentially eradicate the left wing of the Labour Party and the Parliamentary Labour Party, and that's what he's achieved with a massive coup against Corbyn. And I, for one, only expect more of the same. Right, I'll move on now. That's all I'll say about the UK election. It is what it is. Lots of live streams and videos to go. I'll be doing a roundup video of the election, of course, as well through the campaign. I've not had the chance to do as many videos, that is long play content, but there is going to be stuff coming out as well. We'll see what happens in the live streams as well. Want to move over to the States though. Obviously they've got an election coming up as well. I'll just briefly touch on this. We know as well as anyone that they don't have a proper choice in the US. Although last night I was talking to someone who I know from the States who said that they always vote for the Greens in America, which is quite rare, you know. Most of the votes go for Republicans or Democrats there. And for a lot of different reasons, it's a messed up voting system in the US as well, but the choice that they've got is appalling. So we all know about the recent accusations and convictions surrounding Donald Trump. They had a live debate. It was Trump versus Biden. Biden, of course, has been awful, especially on issues such as Palestine. But when they had this live debate, it appeared that Joe Biden was perhaps not even mentally capable of being president of the United States of America. He lost his train of thought several times, and a lot of people were calling for him to perhaps step down, saying that, you know, they need to get someone else in before the actual election comes up, because the state that he was in, he was going to get absolutely railroaded. But he's decided to stay in the race, although this declaration is somewhat worrying and a further example of just perhaps his state of mind or whatever. I just want to quickly show you this clip and get your thoughts on this. So this was recorded just a couple of days ago, and this is how Joe Biden's decided to declare that he's not going anywhere. He's going to stick it out through to the 2024 race, which comes up later this year. Hold on to your hats.
Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
When?
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
When?
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
Oh no. Yeah, it's 2024 now, Joe. It's 2024. Goodness me, what a choice. So you got a choice between that and Trump in the USA. I know we do have some viewers in the USA. If you're listening to the live stream, a very warm welcome to you. Don't envy your choice of candidates in the election. For all of you socialists out there in the USA, of which I know there are many, but of course you don't have anywhere near the first voting system, as neither do we in the UK. Just wanted to quickly touch on that. There's another clip I've got queued up here. We're going to switch over to the occupation of Palestine. I guess this also ties things up with Labour as well. Just want to tell you that I did used to be, for those of you who don't know, a member of the Labour Party and campaigned under Corbyn. Now, the reason I decided to leave, although I always had my suspicions about Keir Starmer, obviously the treatment of Corbyn was one thing, but the day I cut my card up was when he suspended Rebecca Long-Bailey, who's a very firm socialist, but also a candidate for Salford as well. And he suspended her for sharing a Guardian article that was written by Maxine Peake, which is who's in this next clip. And she was writing an article about Palestine, about Gaza. Now, this was way before the escalation last year, on October 7th, of course. But even back then, Starmer was so desperate in his attempt to create this image of change and this apparent purge on, floating commas, the anti-Semitism crisis within Labour, that he suspended Rebecca Long-Bailey simply for sharing an article written by fantastic actress and campaigner Maxine Peake, who's been in such productions as Shameless, for example. And yeah, she's been a long time socialist campaigner, and this is the latest of what she's had to say about the current occupation of Gaza, of Palestine, but also how the UK are complicit in this. So that just sort of brings that around to this clip. That was the last time I held a Labour member's card, and I've got no regrets. I've never looked back since. So this is Maxine Peake.
UK governments always say that they respect international humanitarian law. They say arms will not be sold to countries who risk breaking it. The law gives special protection to civilians, prisoners of war, wounded and sick individuals, medical and religious personnel, and humanitarian relief workers. In Israel's war on Gaza, not one of these groups has been spared. The Fourth Geneva Convention says that civilian hospitals shall at all times be respected and protected. Protected. There are now no fully functioning hospitals in Gaza. Most have been destroyed. Some are the sites of mass graves, horrific crime scenes. These are the truths that the government denied when it licensed the sale of arms to Israel. These are the acts it condoned when it delayed legal hearings, when it demanded secret closed sessions to hide from scrutiny. British policy is killing Palestinians. Global Legal Action Network and Al-Haq are challenging that policy in the High Court. They want our government to respect international law. So let's support them in their fight. Let's end Britain's role in killing Palestinians.
And that onus is, of course, on Starmer now, who's been more than lacklustre in calling out for action on the occupation of Palestine. He is, of course, an open Zionist himself. And so many members of the new Labour cabinet are, of course, under the influence of the LFI and other Israeli lobbyists. So we really have to keep up this pressure. There have been so many areas where we've seen, this is in the election, where we've seen this issue coming up. We need to sustain this pressure. We need to sustain the marches. We need to keep the pressure on all these Labour MPs now to take action on Gaza. Right, okay. Just going to get the next clip lined up. Unfortunately, just the sort of latest, we don't seem to be getting any closer to a ceasefire, but that's what so many organisations and so many citizens in the UK are calling out for, is a legitimate ceasefire and an end to this occupation and collective punishment. All right, I'm going to try and raise our spirits a little here. Maxine Peake, of course, magnificent as always. Do check out this campaign as well. Hopefully you'll enjoy this clip. This is latest comedy clip from Larry and Paul.
Hope. We are appealing to private equity firms, multinational banks and lobbying cartels to create roles in their organisations for these unemployed politicians. Take David. He knobbed a pig, screwed the whole country, then flapped off like a big chicken. But thanks to support from an only slightly fishy finance firm, David bounced back to earn millions from dodgy lobbying, totally fixed his reputation, and became a foreign secretary like nothing had ever happened. Give them a job, give them purpose, give them hope. Thank you.
Larry and Paula do check out their content as well. Yeah, we wave bye-bye to the blue Tories, and we've got the red Tories coming in now. But it's good to see the backs of the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, Penny Mordaunt as well, so many others. Jonathan Goulis were mentioned as well. Let us know who your favourites are, either in the comments or in the live chat, but we're going to start to bring things to a close. I just want to give another shout out to the members on the channel as we dip back into Keith's Fondue Lounge. Big shout out again to all of the members of the channel. You can of course join that list by hitting the join button. For just 99p you can enjoy a great range of perks. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be with you here this evening and share thoughts on the general election results. We'll be keeping our eye on Starmer's government. More content to come. Please do hit the notification bell even, so you don't miss out on that content. I'll try and of course keep you posted in the community posts as well, and on social media. Give us a follow on Twitter, My Left Eye UK. I'll be back with you through the week with more brews at 10. For those of you who aren't regular viewers, that's weekday live streams. Try and catch up at 10 PM as many days as I can fit into the schedule. Keep an eye out for that as well. Yeah, I've just had another look at the projected seats in that French election as well. Just a quick update. It does look like the new Popular Front are going to be ahead by quite a margin there. National Rally looked to have finished in third in the end. They're the far right party, led by Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella. So that's just to confirm. That's another bit of good news this evening. Yeah, it's been great to catch up. I'll be hopefully catching you on one of the brews at 10 during the week. And until then, take care everybody. My Left Eye, be seeing you soon. Good evening.